even I, as a hospice social worker, going back before the doula work, when my father was dying, I would come down. I lived about an hour and a half from my father. He lived in New York City, and I live upstate New York. And so I would come down a couple of nights a week just to give my mom a break, because she wouldn't sleep really when she was there at night with my dad. You know, anytime he twitched or moved or there was something with my kids. And so I left at about 6 in the morning to drive home. And as soon as I got there, I got a call saying that I had to come back, that something had changed, and it looked like he was really close. And so I jumped back in my car, drove the hour and a half back, and then ended up sitting at the bedside watching every one of his breaths for like 3 hours. And some of you may have had similar experiences, right? Every time my father exhaled, there was a pause. Every breath. And every breath I thought, okay, this is it. This is the last breath. And then he would breathe again. And it went on like this for about 3 hours. And finally, at some point, I was just stiff, and I felt I needed to get up and just walk a little bit, go to the kitchen, get a glass of water. My sister was in the room talking to the aide. They were not really facing my dad because I had been at the bedside. So they got into a conversation and they let me do my thing. And so I went to the kitchen, had a glass of water, and when I came back to the doorway, I saw my father was not breathing. But I didn't know if that was because he had died or if that was one of those breaths and he was, those pauses and he was about to take another breath. And I waited, and it seemed like for 10 minutes, but I think it was probably about a minute that I was standing there. And it just became clear to me that he wasn't going to breathe again and that he had died. And my sister and the aide, recognizing that I was just standing still at the doorway, finally looked over and asked me if he had died. And I said, I think he has. So I wasn't there. People were in the room, but they weren't really with my dad. They were with each other. I had been at the bedside and had been so attentive, and yet I missed it because I didn't recognize. If I knew at that point what I know now about what imminent death looks like, if I had known the signs and symptoms of imminent death, I would not have gone to the kitchen. Even if it was another 6 hours, I would have sat at the bedside if I knew that he was that close. So that's one of the gifts that we as doulas can give people, is that we can ensure that they are there and they're going to be there when their loved one takes their last breaths. So they don't live with that sense of regret about having missed that. It took me a long time after my father died to really kind of shift my thinking about missing his last breath.